Hello and hi. We are from Group 1 80 2205C. So today we would like to talk about the carbon cycles. Let me introduce my teammates. Firstly, I am Estelina Anatsuri as a first speaker, following by Adrian Geoffrey, and lastly would be Andrew Alfian Winson. What are we going to focus on about this topic are first, introduction on carbon cycle, second, key processes in the carbon cycle, next, function of the carbon cycles. After that, importance of climate regulations. Lastly is human activities impact on the carbon cycle and conclusion about this topic. So, the carbon cycle is the fundamental natural process through which carbon atoms are continuously exchanged among the Earth's atmospheres, ocean, terrestrial biospheres, and geospheres. This cycle is essential for sustaining life as carbon is a key component of all organic molecules, including those that make up living organisms and many minerals such as limestone.
Next, we move to the what is fast carbon cycle. Fast carbon cycle involve quick movement of carbon through living organism, biospheres within years or lifespan. Plants and phytoplankton absorb atmospheric carbon dioxide during the photosynthesis and converting it into sugars and oxygen using sunlight energy. Next, carbon moves through the food chain as animals eat plants and other animals, releasing the carbon dioxide back to the atmosphere via respiration. Decomposition of dead organism by microbes also release carbon dioxide rapidly back to the atmospheres. So fire consuming the plants and they also release the stored carbon quickly as carbon dioxide. So the fast carbon cycle processes between 1,000 and 100 million metric tons of carbon annually. This carbon concentration in reservoir fluctuates seasonally. For example, atmospheric carbon dioxide drops in growing season and rises in winter due to plant activities. For the slow carbon cycle, it involves long-term cycling of carbon through geological processes over millions of years. So the carbon moves between atmospheres, ocean, soils, and rocks via processes like weathering, sedimentation, and volcanic activity. Organic carbon from dead organisms can be buried and converted into fossil fuel or sedimentary rock, storing carbon for millions of years. Carbonic acid in rain weather rocks, releasing the carbon into soil and ocean where it forms carbonate minerals. So volcanic eruptions and tectonic activities release the stored carbon back into the atmosphere slowly. Although a single event moves more carbon than the fast cycle, the slow cycle processes less carbon annually due to its long time scales.
The carbon cycle is crucial for recycling carbon and maintaining life, also the climate stability on Earth. So, the key processes in the cycle include photosynthesis, respiration, decomposition, and combustion. The cycle is driven by biological, chemical, and geological mechanisms. First, plants going to absorb the carbon dioxide from the atmospheres during the photosynthesis and convert it into organic matter. Animals and plants will release the carbon dioxide back to, back to the atmospheres through respiration, decay, or combustion. The ocean also acts as a major carbon sink that absorbing and storing the large amount of carbon. So these carbon cycles operate on both fast and slow timescales. However, human activities like burning fossil fuels and land use changes have disrupted the natural carbon balance. So this action leads to the increases atmospheric carbon dioxide that also contributing to the global warming and ocean acidification.
Hello, salam sejahtera and salam UiTM di hatiku. Today, I will be presenting the functions of the carbon cycle and the importance of climate regulation, two concepts that are deeply interconnected and vital to sustaining life on Earth. Let's begin with the function of carbon cycle. There are four main functions I will highlight today. First, it regulates Earth's temperature. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It traps heat in the atmosphere. The carbon cycle helps balance carbon dioxide levels, preventing the planet from becoming too hot or too cold. For example, forests absorb carbon dioxide and help cool the Earth. But when too much carbon dioxide is released from the vehicles and also industries, it leads to global warming. Second, it supports plant life. Plants use carbon dioxide during photosynthesis to grow and produce oxygen. Take rainforests for instance. They act as natural carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere while supporting a wide variety of plant and animal species. Third, it transfers energy through ecosystems. Carbon-based compounds in plants store energy. When animals consume plants, this energy moves through the food chain. Hence, when a cow eats grass and we consume dairy or meat, that energy is passed in the form of carbon. And fourth, it recycles nutrients. When living organisms die, decomposers break them down and return carbon to the soil and atmosphere, continuing the cycle. For instance, fallen leaves that decompose in a forest enrich the soil, allowing new plants to grow. Now, let's talk about how Malaysia's forests play a vital role in climate regulation and what's at stake. Malaysia is home to some of the world's richest ecosystems, especially in Peninsular Malaysia, Sarawak and Sabah. These areas are covered in tropical rainforests and peat swamps, which store irrecoverable carbon that once released cannot be restored within a human lifetime. These ecosystems act as natural climate buffers. However, in just the past decade, Malaysia has lost over 125 million metric tons of irrecoverable carbon. That's nearly 10% of our total nation stock. This loss is mainly driven by palm oil expansion, which often overlaps with forested and peatland areas, and also by large-scale infrastructure development like roads and settlements. Malaysia is the second largest producer of palm oil in the world, so these land use changes have a big impact. When forests and peatlands are cleared or drained, the carbon stored underground and in vegetation is released into the atmosphere, increasing greenhouse gas emissions. This not only reduces our ability to store carbon naturally, but also worsens global warming, contributing to extreme weather, rising temperatures, and biodiversity loss. The consequences are both local and global, affecting agriculture, air quality, and long-term climate stability. Stronger forest protection and more sustainable land use practices are urgently needed to protect what remains. This shows that protecting forests isn't just about saving trees, it's about maintaining a system that regulates our climate and also supports life. Now, let's move on to the importance of climate regulation, which is directly influenced by the carbon cycle. Climate regulation ensures that Earth remains a stable and livable environment. Here are 4 reasons why it's so important. 1. It stabilizes global temperatures. A balanced climate prevents extreme heating or cooling of the Earth. For example, if carbon dioxide levels rise uncontrollably, it can result in intense warming, something we're already seeing with more frequent heat waves around the globe. Second, it supports agricultural productivity. Farmers depend on consistent temperatures and rainfall to grow food. Therefore, when the climate is stable, crops like rice, wheat, and maize grow reliably, ensuring food security for millions of people. 3. It protects ecosystems and biodiversity. A stable climate allows habitats like forests, coral reefs, and wetlands to thrive. For example, when temperatures rise, coral reefs become stressed and experience bleaching, leading to the loss of entire marine ecosystems. 4. It reduces extreme weather events. Stable climates help prevent natural disasters from becoming more severe. As a result, regions experience fewer and less intense floods, droughts, and storms. On the other hand, climate instability has made events like wildfires and typhoons more destructive in recent years. In conclusion, the carbon cycle plays a key role in maintaining life on Earth. It regulates temperature, supports ecosystems, transfers energy, and recycles nutrients. All these functions contribute to climate regulation, which is crucial for agriculture, biodiversity, and our everyday safety. Therefore, protecting the carbon cycle means protecting the Earth and ultimately protecting ourselves.
Thank you, Adrian. Me, Henry, will continue the presentations about human activity impacts on carbon cycle. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, about 90% of carbon emission linked to human influence and come directly from activities like burning fossil fuels. And then the remaining 10% is attributed to change in land use, including deforestation, farming method, and draining of land. So, human action have greatly disrupted the natural carbon cycle. This happened since the Industrial Revolutions began around 150 years ago. The Industrial Revolution has become a massive impact on the change carbon cycle release. The burning of coal and later oil and gas skyrocketed carbon dioxide emission, especially due to the steam power, transportation, and manufacturing. Let's take a closer look at the four major ways human activity are disrupting the natural carbon cycle. So the first activity is burning fossil fuels, which is the biggest contributor. So when we burn coal, oil or natural gas for electricity, transportation or industrial process, this will release vast amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. This carbon was stored underground for millions of years and now is being released just in a decade, which will upsetting the long-term balance of the natural carbon cycle. Next is deforestation and land use change. Trees act as a carbon sinks by absorbing CO2 during photosynthesis. So when forests are cleared for agriculture, urban development or logging, not only this carbon absorbing function is lost, but also the carbon stored in trees and soils is also released into the atmosphere, which will further contributing to warming. Then, ocean-atmosphere exchange. Ocean absorb about a quarter of human emitted CO2, but with the rising atmospheric concentration, the ocean are becoming saturated. This will lead to ocean acidification, which will harm marine organisms like coral and plankton that help regulate the carbon cycle. Then, for the last main human activities that disrupt the cycle is animal husbandry and methane emission. Raising a livestock like cow produce a methane, which is a powerful greenhouse. Greenhouse gas were 25 times more effective at trapping heat than CO2. The cows also release methane when they digest food, and also the manure give off gases. So, as we can see from the figure, the cow is the biggest contribution for the GHG emission by livestock, which is 35.3 and 30.1%. For conclusion, the carbon cycle is very important for life on Earth. It helps build all living things because carbon is part of every plant, animal, and person. Without the carbon cycle, life will not be possible. This cycle also recycles nutrients and moves energy through nature. Plant takes in carbon dioxide to grow, and animals get energy by eating plants. This is how energy flows in ecosystem. Furthermore, a well-functioning carbon cycle supports the plant life by supplying carbon for photosynthesis, which is the foundation of most food chains. This, in turn, supports agricultural productivity by making it vital for food security and economic stability across the globe. But for today, as we know, human activity are changing the carbon cycle. Things like burning fossil fuels, cutting down forests, and using certain farming methods are adding too much carbon to the air. This is cause climate change and harming the environment. So, it is important for us to protect it. Protecting the carbon cycle is not just about the environment. It is about ensuring a stable, healthy future for all life on